Hi everybody, I hope that you're all doing really well. So today I am back to do my October reading roundup, reading at a glance. As I mentioned in my September wrap up, I've decided to start doing slightly less in-depth reviews within my reading wrap ups, but instead trying to do individual book reviews. This to be a little bit more informal, a bit more chatty, just kind of give you an idea of how my reading has been going this month. And people seemed really receptive to that, so thank you very much. And so I'm going to continue with that this month. I'm actually filming this on the 31st of October, so happy Halloween. Though of course this is probably not going to come out until a little bit later. So there is every chance that I could finish a book today, but I think the chances are a little bit slim. And to be honest, my reading this month has been kind of a reading month of two halves, because I was doing really well at the beginning of the month with reading, and then I got ill. Just past mid-month, I ended up getting what I think is a virus. It wasn't confirmed what it was, but it was pretty bad and basically put me out of commission for a little over a week. In fact, I had like 3 days where I was pretty much confined to either my bed or the sofa downstairs. Caught up on a lot of sleep. And I'm only really just starting to get my energy back. And I thought whilst I was in bed that I was going to get loads of reading done, but actually I just found that I didn't have the energy for it. And I didn't even have the concentration levels to listen to audiobooks whilst I was ill. So I was mainly listening to podcasts. In particular, I was re-listening to the Rex Factor podcast, which is one of my favourite history podcasts. They go in chronological order and go through all of the kings and queens. The first series was the kings and queens of England and later Great Britain. Then they went through all the Scottish monarchs, and this recent season they've been going through the consorts of the British monarchs. And that was very enjoyable, but it basically meant that I didn't read for a little over a week. In fact, probably more closer to 2 weeks. But that will not deter us from doing a reading wrap up. I can tell you that for October I have read 6 books, so a little less than normal. But I do think, considering that I had a week and a half, 2 weeks where I wasn't reading at all, that's not too bad. Those books in question were Elektra by Jennifer Saint, Bronte's Mistress by Finola, Carmilla by Sheridan, Fanu, The Vampyre by John Polidori, The Dead Romantics by Ashley Poston, and then finally Essex Dogs by Dan Jones. And actually, I tell a lie, I actually read 7 books in total, because I reread or I re-listened to The Mirror and the Light by Hilary Mantel. I listened to the audiobook, which is narrated by Ben Miles, which is absolutely brilliant. I also had one DNF this month. I had started reading The Portrait of a Lady by Henry James. I got about 200 pages into it, or about 22 chapters, and just decided this isn't for me. I don't think the timing is quite right for me in this book now. It is a book that I'm going to hold on to. I'm going to send it home to my mum and dad, but I'm not going to keep it on my current TBR, and I'm probably going to leave it for a few years down the line. At the moment, I'm just finding it a little bit overlong. It took like a good 200 pages for like what I think is going to be the main plot, the main inciting incident to actually happen. And whilst there are moments where I'm finding it really witty and some moments of humour, they feel a bit too few and far between for me. So for right now, I'm putting that book aside, which is a shame because it's the only like true Victober book that I was reading this month. In terms of my star rating breakdown, as I say, I had a DNF, which doesn't get a star rating, and then everything else that I did read ranged from a 2-star up to a 5-star. So The Vampyre got 2 stars, Carmilla and The Dead Romantics both got 3 stars, Bronte's Mistress got 3.25 stars, Essex Dogs got 3.5 stars, Elektra got 4 stars, and then The Mirror and the Light, my reread of The Mirror and the Light, got 5 stars. It had 5 stars before, it has 5 stars now. It is a brilliant book. In terms of my fiction to non-fiction breakdown, we are having another month where I've read entirely fiction. Once again, this is not very normal, and I'm hoping that non-fiction November is going to remedy this. Really need to build back up my non-fiction reading. In terms of the genre breakdown, pretty typical for me. We had 4 historical fiction reads, 2 classics, and then 1 contemporary romance. As I say, the main reason that I'm wanting to do these slightly more casual roundup videos is because I'm wanting to do more individual book reviews, so I will give you an update on where I am with those. In terms of Carmilla and the Vampyre, I actually did this in a 3-book roundup with Dracula by Bram Stoker, which I had read in September. That video is already uploaded and I will put the link down below. Similarly, Bronte's Mistress by Finola I've also reviewed, and that has been uploaded. For Elektra, I have filmed my review for that. I filmed it actually quite a few weeks ago. I've just not gotten around to editing and uploading it quite yet, but that will be coming soon. I've started writing a bit of a script for my Essex Dogs review, so hopefully I'll be filming that in the next week. And then for The Dead Romantics, I was actually planning on filming the review for this like weeks ago, because I wanted to review it alongside this book, which is Angelika Frankenstein Makes Her Match by Sally Thorne. I thought they're very similar themes. I was going to call the video something like My Undead Boyfriend, 2 books about undead boyfriends. And I thought that would be a very good Halloween-y kind of review video, but unfortunately I am still only about halfway through Angelika Frankenstein. This was actually the book that I was reading just before I got ill, and as you can see, I'm still not done with it. So I am hoping to finish this soon. I'm just not going to be able to get this done by Halloween because it is Halloween. I am not that speedy, I'm afraid. But once I finish this, I do have full plans to do a review of both of these together. So even though we're not going to be in the spooky season, I hope that that is still enjoyable for you. In terms of books that I am currently reading or have future plans to read, as I say, I do have this book right here, Angelika Frankenstein Makes Her Match. I'm also currently listening to the audiobook of Two Houses, Two Kingdoms, A History of France and England from 1100 to 1300 by Hanley. I'm about a quarter of the way through this, and this is currently remedying the fact that I've not been reading any non-fiction. I am currently listening to this, and it is non-fiction, so hooray! I also have an audiobook set up and ready to go for How to Be a Tudor by Ruth Goodman. Earlier in the year, I read How to Be a Victorian by Ruth Goodman and quite enjoyed that, and I feel like I'm going to enjoy the Tudor one even more because this is more of my time period. Once again, another good non-fiction November pick. Also, in terms of future reading, I have got The Haunting Season, Ghostly Tales for Long Winter Nights, which is a whole host of historical fiction writers writing ghostly stories. This is actually a pick for an in real life book club that I am part of. Once again, it's another Halloween-y read, which I haven't been able to finish because of getting ill, and I'm not quite sure when the book club is meant to be for this, so I'm going to have to get round to this pretty sharpish. Other books that I'm interested in reading, though I haven't started yet, are Unfortunate Ends on Murder and Misadventure in Medieval England by Soren Lily, as well as What Writers Read, 35 Writers on Their Favourite Books, edited by Pandora Sykes. These are 2 books that I bought most recently, and they're both really diddy, really little non-fiction books, so once again I thought that these would be very good picks for non-fiction November. The last thing that I'd wanted to keep a note of for this roundup video was where my TBR is at. My count last month was that it was at 56 books, and unfortunately I can't actually give you a number right now because I am due to be moving this month. I say this month, it's going to be the beginning of December that I'm actually going to be moving. It is a month away. So we're not going to be in this room anymore, unfortunately, which I'm really quite sad about. I do love this room, I love this house, and it was an unplanned move. But you know, these things do happen. And because I'm going to be moving into a room that is ever so slightly smaller than this room, I have been trying to think of areas that I can pass things on to my parents, not get rid of things, but pass them to my parents to look after. A big area of that was my clothes, because unfortunately I'm not going to have the 2 open wardrobe system that I currently have, and also passing on some books to my parents, including a lot of my to be read books. At the moment I have a slightly smaller collection of books, but looking at it, there are definitely more books there than I am feasibly going to read in the next couple of months. And so yeah, my TBR is kind of spread out here, there and everywhere. But I do think it's fair enough to give you a number of the unread books that I currently have in my possession right now, and that is 35 books. At least I think that is right. My plan is obviously to cycle through these books, get these books read, and then I can pass them on to my mum to send back home with the rest of my read book collection. And then anytime that I go home, I'm probably not going to be bringing any of these books with me. I'll probably be focusing on the unread books I have at my parents' home. And then I think every time my parents come down, they'll probably bring a few books with them. But yes, in terms of unread books I have in my possession right now, I do believe it is around about 35 books, and we can monitor that through the months. So there we go, those are all of the books that I have read this month, and my little roundup of how my reading month has gone in October is complete. Do let me know if you've read any of the books that I've spoken about, any questions that you have about my reading month. Maybe I can implement any questions that you have into my format for this roundup. Anything that you have to say, I would love to hear from you. I hope you're having a fantastic, fantastic day, and I look forward to talking to you again soon. Thanks. Bye.